outcome data from these assessment rolls up into key components of our school and district accreditation ratings. They're tracked closely by our strategic plan. So just want to celebrate our students who are, for their persistence and perseverance and swagger to dig into those assessments and show us what they're capable of. And also want to thank the staff who are creating supportive and celebratory and positive testing atmospheres, to our parents for helping make sure our kids are present and rested and well fed and ready to go every day. So keep at it and hang in there, students. Also want to celebrate the early childhood education staff. They hosted an all-day staff training last Friday, April 10th, to work specifically on TS Gold. When we talk about assessment season, TS Gold is a really essential, critical online observation-based formative assessment system that is designed for teachers to track the development and learning of children from birth through kindergarten. This data does roll up into especially like our special education programs metrics and their accreditation. So it's also a very important assessment, even though it's for our tiniest students. It evaluates children across various domains, including social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive literacy, and even mathematics for our little 4-year-olds. The team of about 70 early childhood education professionals was incredibly engaged, focused, and enthusiastic about this training on TS Gold. And so much so that the professionals and consultants who were part of the training from the Colorado Department of Education and folks from the Rocky Mountain Early Childhood Council who came to observe shared feedback that this was one of the strongest TS Gold professional developments and trainings they've observed and participated in, specifically because of the professionalism and engagement of the Roaring Fork School District early childhood team. So just want to really send a kudos out to those educators staying in it and engaged. Additionally, probably for a lot of us, students and staff and parents, spring break feels like a very long time ago. But I want to appreciate the Roaring Fork School District custodial team. This team actually works on a 260-day calendar and does not have spring break. So while the rest of us were out, this team was working hard on deep cleaning and collaborative projects with our local fire departments to keep schools clean and safe. So many thanks to the team for their dedication and hard work. We are almost finished with, but we are hosting another round of community coffee talks. We'll wrap these up on Friday morning at CC's in Basalt at 9 a.m. So many thanks to the local small business owners, Bluebird Cafe in Glenwood, Bonfire Coffee in Carbondale, and CC's in Basalt, who are willing to host us. And importantly, many thanks to the parents and community members who attend. We've had 2 really robust roundtables the last 2 weeks. We discussed topics ranging from cell phones to school safety, budgets to comprehensive human sexuality curriculum implementation. Conversations are engaging, collaborative, and kind, even when everyone around the table does not agree. Folks are keeping students at the center, and I'm really grateful for the time. Director Ramirez was at our Glenwood meeting as well. And I want to just reassure the community, because we're not always in that hour getting to everybody's questions and concerns. But if we continue to have such strong engagement, we'll just create more coffee talks at different times a day, because they've been really engaging. And then finally, I want to pause and preempt what we're going to go to next, which is a superintendent report. And I want to thank all our student leaders who are in attendance tonight. Their work is an incredible testament to the power of young people to create change in the spaces that matter to them. Our strategic plan leads with students first. And through that priority, we are grappling with challenges in representation and access around student engagement, participation, and leadership. This particular group of students, who has big old teams behind them, have dedicated their time, their energy, their expertise, their social capital, and their passion to address these challenges that we've lifted up as a district directly in their school communities. And what you'll see tonight is that it is working. The metrics that we measure as a district on student belonging at the high school level are trending slowly in the right direction. And we believe this is 100% due to the problem-solving, creativity, and leadership that you're going to see tonight. And of course, supporting the students, and many of whom are here tonight, their school administrators, their deans of culture, Garrett Peters at Glenwood Springs High School, Cora Carb at Roaring Fork High School, who's also will be shifting into a principal, being principal at CMS next year, Dominic Roman at Basalt High School, who will also be shifting into Director of Family Resource Center next year. Finally, as most of what we do as a community, as a governance team and administration in this room and these meetings is we address challenges, and it can be really hard and heavy work. We don't always agree that things are moving in the right direction. But today will remind us that every day the Roaring Fork schools are creating absolutely transformative spaces for students to grow and learn and lead. And there is a lot that is working really, really well in our schools. I know we have a packed agenda. We have a long night ahead of us. We have a robust public comment period and many topics to address tonight. But I really want to urge everybody in this room to pause for a moment on your motivations and your interests in the issues and whatever you brought, whatever brought you here tonight, whatever you're bringing into the space, to just set that aside and be super present for the privilege of learning from this group of leaders.
All right, that means that the next business in order is a presentation from Dr. Cole, Joel Hathaway, along with members from our high school student leadership teams and deans of culture. So thank you all so much for being here. And like I said, we have all of the hard questions lined up to throw at you as soon as you're done. So get ready.
I'm gonna do just two at a time.
Do you want to say everybody who's on the board has questions?
Everybody.
Oh,
Have everybody.
yeah. It's what I'll have.
Right.
We'll
Yeah, that's great.
And then when the board's question.
Okay. Okay. I am so very thrilled to introduce you to a few outstanding student leaders from our high schools this evening. I would like to give you updates on Initiative 1.1, Student Leadership. Our hope for this initiative is to reimagine student leadership opportunities at all levels to amplify historically marginalized student voices, especially emerging bilinguals and students of color. We want to strengthen representation of student leadership in school culture and decision-making. And when you think about the flower of our strategic plan, this one lives in the upper left. It's blue and it's called Students First. This measure that is the sense of belonging goal, and we're looking to increase the percentage of students, all students, and particularly Hispanic students, that report feeling a sense of belonging in our schools. And if you look closely at our data, high school student sense of belonging scores do show an increase on both Healthy Kids Colorado survey and the Panorama Student Survey, which is a huge celebration and largely the work of all these people that are surrounding me right now. The only, I think, pushback to what I would say to Dr. Cole's awesome introduction is that it's actually a pretty substantial gain. It is small gains, yes, but we see in Panorama surveys 5-point gains from one year to the next, which is actually amazing. And in Healthy Kids surveys, we see gains that are even more than that from 2 years ago. So we're really proud of it. Just to take you quickly through the timeline of a couple of key moves that we made this year. So back in September, the students, the high school deans, several high school counselors, and we attended a student leadership summit in Denver, and we received training on inclusive leadership and building consensus, amplifying student voice. We also met some really cool people from all across the state and beyond, and we were also treated to a super exciting / scary bus ride thanks to Mr. Peters and Ms. Carp. In the fall, the kids, they took what they learned and they went back to their high schools and they developed strategies and started to form student groups to boost inclusive participation to meet our goals. In March and April, so just like actually currently and in the last couple of weeks, we re-administered a student survey that the students developed. The students wrote it. The students were curious about some things, they gave it, and they're the ones that have analyzed it. We wanted to gather year two data on the existing state of student leadership. And one like caveat that I would put in your ears about this survey is that for now, this survey is really student-led, student-run, student-analyzed, and it's at the school level. We do have future plans that I'll talk about at the very end to integrate some key questions into our panorama survey so that next year and beyond, we can start to measure it on our dashboard and report to the board on what we're learning. But for now, it's a little bit less formal than that. It's still completely student-run. All year long, the student leadership groups have executed our school-based initiatives. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Sam. And Sam, I'll do the formal introduction after this slide because that's what's next.
Alrighty, hi everybody, I'm Sam. And this is mainly talking about the student voice survey, which Joel was just talking about. And it was written last year by students at Roaring Fork High School Student Equity Council. And I thought it was really cool because it was mainly comprised of students and student leaders, including me, and I was one of the writers on the survey. And we really wanted to try and get a better understanding of where SEC should direct its efforts in action projects. And it was to make sure that our work was aligned with the needs of the students. How can we direct our sort of action projects to make sure it was mainly benefiting the students who we were serving? And we were particularly interested in three main questions. How often do adults at your school ask your opinions about important matters and decisions? Have you participated in clubs or sports at your school? And if not, what kept you from participating? And three, do you feel represented by those student leaders at your school? So mainly those were main three questions that we were looking at. And it was really excellent to be a part of the writing committee alongside other students and with the help of Joel and Cora Carballera. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so formal introduction. Cora Carballera couldn't be with us tonight. She teaches the CMC class, but we're going to have a presentation on what's been happening at Roaring Fork High School. I would like to formally introduce Caroline Cole and Sam Stableford.
Hi, I'm Caroline, and I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the history of Student Equity Club at Roaring Fork and a little summary of what we do in our meetings and how we run. So this is the 6th year Student Equity's been at Roaring Fork. And in the last 2 years, the club has shifted to being almost entirely student-led. So we have 2 co-presidents, who's Sam and I this year, and a number of other action project leaders and committee heads as well. We meet once a week, and we have over 25 regular club members, which is a big increase over the last few years. We always try to start our meetings with time to connect and build a community. So we'll do fun icebreakers or get to know you games to make sure we're all getting comfortable as a club. We also try to build in a lot of time to do learning as a group about skills or topics that we think is important for our action projects. So for example, we started this year with a couple lessons on how to have hard conversations as a group. We also try to build in a lot of time for people to speak up and share their ideas on inequities or issues that they've witnessed in the school and make sure everyone is able to feel like their voice is heard and they have a space to take action on issues that are important to them. We also build in a lot of time to work on our action projects as a group. So time for committees to meet with teachers, to analyze survey data was a big one this year. And then in the fall, as Joel mentioned, we attend a leadership training in the University of Denver. And then in January, a lot of members from our club attend the Youth Celebrate Diversity Conference in Denver, which is really cool. So one of our main projects this year was consolidating and analyzing the data from last year's student voice survey. And as a club, we identified 2 main areas that we really tried to hone in on this year for our action projects. The first one being that we noticed that Latino students showed a negative 9% difference in saying they felt like they belonged for all of the time at school. And then the second one being asked about participation in sports and clubs. There was a significantly higher percentage of Latino students reporting that they did not participate, but they wanted to.
And so from there, we kind of took some of the data from there and we sort of discussed as a team, Student Equity Council, what we wanted to do with that data. And so we started to form some action projects around it in the spring. And so the action projects have been made that the Student Equity Council has interacted with Roaring Fork High School student body. And as said before, we try and look at the data and feedback from the students to know where we should be directing our efforts. So some past projects included the bilingual community lunch. We did that last year and this year. And some goals that we had were to try and connect with bilingual students and invite students who have recently immigrated to the United States and to our community to make sure that they had sort of a good way to connect with the rest of the student body. And we also wanted to understand from students what felt inclusive or not. And so we thought it was a cool way to sort of integrate a natural sort of lunch where everybody can have conversations and connect while also discussing some equity disparities that students might be seeing. Another one that is recent this year, another action project that is new, is the Sports and Clubs Fair. And some goals that we had were, we wanted to see whether or not students felt represented by their student leaders. So that would be in clubs like student council and things like that. And we wanted to address gaps in involvement and access to extracurricular activities, specifically among, we noticed some data and some disparities between, you know, whether it be across grade, across race, and across gender, making sure that everybody felt like they could be included in clubs and sports. And we also wanted to create personal connections to foster a more inviting, inclusive, and involved environment in extracurricular activities. So another one that we did, which was a couple of years ago, I think we did it last year actually, and it was an anti-hate speech presentation to crews and also staff. And the goal was to educate students and teachers about hate speech and how it impacts the school culture and kind of to have an open forum for conversation and questions and a safe space for people to talk about it. So yeah, and then one thing that we've been doing pretty consistently since the club has started is promoting AP class enrollment through info sessions at the middle school to increase representation in those classes. So some next steps that we have specifically at Roaring Fork, and I'm sure some of them might be shared with Glenwood and Basalt as well, but to create, for us specifically with our action projects and next steps, we're creating a tip sheet for coaches and club sponsors to increase inclusivity, not just from the student side, but also from the coach and any sort of like faculty that are involved in the club, and hosting more community activities and as an extension of the community lunches to encourage students to mix up and get to know each other a little bit better.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm Mr. Gaylord Peters, the Dean of Culture from Glenwood Springs High School, and we were hoping that we would have Oswaldo Corona, who is a student leader at Glenwood Springs High School, but it also happens to be scholarship tonight at Glenwood Springs High School. So some of the students are back there, and Mr. Peters is in a hurry to get back there to celebrate that with them, but we're going to turn that over to Garrett.
Yeah, so a bit bittersweet as we have no student representatives here this evening, but that is because they're attending their scholarship night, which is a big deal for our students. And I'm excited for them on that. So I just want to talk about some highlights and challenges for the what is called the Student Coalition Board at Glenwood Springs High School. Like Sam, our students went down to the YCD conference in the particularly Oswaldo Corona and Star Hernandez to get some leadership skills, and they've kind of brought that back to our club at Glenwood Springs High School. This has been a truly student-run organization, which I think almost to a fault, in that I didn't give them much guidance. I wanted to, these are two highly capable students, and I kind of wanted to let them run with it. And I think they had a lot of successes. They had a lot of really good conversations, but at the end of the day, they felt like the action behind their ideas was limited. And that's where the intent is to pick up next year. Unfortunately, a good portion of the coalition board is made up of seniors, so we will lose a large portion of our group in the fall, but I do have some pretty dedicated sophomores and juniors that are looking to step into some leadership roles. And we've actually just on Monday had a meeting talking about their ideas and what they want to do moving forward in the fall. And I think one of the challenges for our program in particular at Glenwood Springs High School was that they had a lot of really big ideas. And I think we need to have small action steps put in place to get to those big ideas. One of their big ideas they want to put forward was a peer-to-peer counseling organization, and they actually have a teacher at Glenwood Springs High School who's done peer-to-peer counseling before. And he was on board with working with students on that, but given budgetary things like that for next year, he was starting to pull away from that, feeling that teachers are going to have to do more with less. And with that, he felt like, as a teacher that already has a lot on his plate, not like too much to take on. So they haven't abandoned the idea of the peer-to-peer counseling. They're looking for avenues to make that happen, but I think it might just be a road that we have to kind of walk down for a while before we get where we'd like to be with that. As far as the future, our board has some really great ideas on trying to get more people involved. We have a relatively diverse population within the club as it sits, but we want to reach out to all of the clubs in the building and try to get representatives from each club, get representatives from athletics programs. They have some ideas about getting the clubs to set up in the things like that to try to get some exposure. But increase at Glenwood Springs High School is student engagement. I think Glenwood Springs is up against some unique challenges in that we have a population that is spread up from Carbondale all the way to Parachute in some instances. And because our population is so spread out, staying after school for events and things like that, sometimes we see limited participation in after school activities, or at least compared to years past. And so they want to find ways to move the kids back into that engagement. We really feel that the more they feel connected to this community of Glenwood Springs High School, the better they're going to perform when it comes to their academics, and then the more they're going to get out of their experience as part of the Roaring Fork School District. So the club is really focused on trying to improve engagement and participation, and so they want to do a lot of outreach in the fall to try to get clubs involved, get people involved in clubs, and find a way for them to feel a part of the Glenwood Springs High School community, and hopefully the larger community as well. So those are the goals. And again, I want to keep in mind because this is about student voice, and I'm a student, but not in that sense that we are considering today. So any questions I have, I look forward to that. Yeah.
You're a student of life. For Basalt High School, thank you so much, Garrett. From Basalt High School, we have the Dean of Culture, Dominic Roman, and we have two more seniors, so it's all seniors on this panel. We have Ruthie Lafaro and Hector Canales.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us today. I just want to talk very briefly because I think it's really important that Ruthie and Hector sort of get the stage here to talk. But I think that one of the first key decisions that I was faced with when I decided to tackle this initiative at Basalt High School this year was like the student leaders that we would choose to step into that role. And for me, see for yourself why. There was really a no-brainer. These two students are really go-getters, and I knew that the students that we chose to lead this initiative at our high school had to be go-getters, and they had to be able to hit the ground running. You're going to see kind of the amazing amount of things that they accomplished, especially when you consider that this was their first year in the role, sort of leading our equity council. So I'm going to pass it over to Ruth first.
And we made slides, so.
Thank you. So kind of to recount what's been said already, the first step of our Equity Council initiative at Basalt was to attend the Youth Celebrate Diversity Conference at the University of Denver in September. And some of the key bullet points that we at that conference were team building skills, how to create a brave space, that equity can look very different for everyone, and altitude that can fit into one slide. But after this conference, we began holding bi-weekly meetings and reaching out to members from club, and an average of 10 members per week at meetings, which we hope to grow in the future. But for the first year, we think it's been a very successful outreach success to reach out to other students across grade levels at Basalt.
Because the club is new, because topics to our table, and we decided to choose one because was the beginning of creating this club. So we choose innovation And the Equity Council organized a presentation by Alan Munoz from the Voces Unidas about immigration rights and understanding how immigration laws works in federal and state. And the difference between judicial and ICE warrant and the role of these organizations in defending our communities and
So second semester to start off in January, our Equity Council partnered with community leaders and teachers to lead the staff at BHS through these trainings on the best practices for supporting LGBTQIA plus students, updates on the safe haven protocol and immigration rights that students have in schools and the rights that students with disabilities have in schools. And this presentation marked a very important step towards greater feeling of equity across our school and included student stories from the Equity Council and other students in our community. And since we had chosen to focus primarily on immigration to this, it's exciting to be able to talk about a couple of other topics that we'll tackle in the future with our Equity Council as well.
So we did a student walkout on January 30th. Members of the Equity Council met with students, leaders in our school to organize a peaceful and helpful walkout of Paso High School, to protest anti-immigration settlement. As I said, this was led by leaders like Ruthie and other leaders in school, and ensure that the walkout was respectful of the community and make sure that the demonstration was safe for everyone and demonstrate civic engagement, that we the young people have the voice to speak up against these issues that currently our communities are passing through these times,
Do
you want to go? Did you have more? Did you have?
Yeah, I think it's right. Okay. So as Joel mentioned, Hector and I are both seniors. But confident that our juniors and underclassmen, Equity Council in very good hands. We've gotten of increased membership. We got the first freshmen to start joining meetings recently before the first break started. So our rising seniors are very passionate about what we're doing in the Equity Council, and we're very confident that they're going to be able to further goals and create equity at Salt High School and further than we have been able to this year.
These guys are so super powerful. That was really cool. Ruthie just took this slide. It was originally supposed to be mine. She's never even seen it. Those guys, awesome. Awesome. It was perfect. No, it was so perfect. Next steps, I won't go through the first one because Ruthie just did an awesome job on that one. We know that we need to sort of restock because we have some deans, like Dr. Cole was mentioning, that are taking other leadership roles in the district, and we have some amazing seniors that we know we need to find some younger students that are going to rise up, and we know that we will do that, just like Ruthie said. We also want to start to begin some work in the middle schools next year. Not quite sure what that looks like yet, but that is part of year 3 for this initiative. I mentioned earlier that we do want to integrate some of these key questions from the student leader survey into Panorama next year so that we can get higher participation rates, data standardization, and accurate disaggregation. So those things are important. And I think most important of all, we need to stay curious. As adults, we need to keep listening, because I think that one thing we know about student voice is that it's consistently changing and amplifying, getting us to pay attention to different things. I think that staying curious means that we continue to encourage our students to ask the questions and take the actions to help develop our schools and our world into a more caring, kind, and inclusive space. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for that time. We're going to move into some board discussion. So I will call on the directors. They will each have 2 minutes to ask questions and discuss things. And then we have 5 minutes after that to catch up on anything that we might have missed. So we're going to start with Director Nimmo. I get to ask anything I want? I mean, like I said, hard questions.
Thank you guys for doing this. I just want to know, like, what was the hardest part of doing this? Was there a hard part?
I think learning how to really make sure that everyone in the clubs feel like they can use the club to their best advantage and to the issues that really matter to them. I think definitely that's gotten a lot better when the club has been student-led over the last couple of years. So, you know, students are feeling like they're really able to take control of our club and use it for what matters to them and the issues that they see, because those aren't always the issues that, you know, faculty is seeing. So it's something we're working on, but I think it's getting better.
Just a quick note, don't hesitate to get close to the mic. I got a quick note that folks online are having trouble hearing you all, so we don't want to miss out. Oh, never mind. Listen, not me.
It's a fine line.
Sorry.
Anyone else?
As you know, our club is new, so I think one hard thing for us was recruiting members for our club, because you know it's a new thing and no one knows about this. You know, it's not like it's NHS or Key Club. It's a new thing, and I think we made a good job in doing this recruitment for people that show leadership and are passionate for doing these things.
And were you surprised by any of the kids that showed up? You know, like when you looked at the people who came, were you like, oh yeah, I expected that person, but oh my goodness, I really had no idea that person would be interested.
I was really impressed, and I think Caroline too. We were really impressed at the fact that a lot of freshmen and sophomores were joining, especially Roaring Fork High School's club, just because I think in past years it's been, I mean, it doesn't have to be this way, but oftentimes the presidents are seniors. And so it was really cool to see, you know, not just juniors and seniors in the club, but also, you know, brand new freshmen who were just coming in and exploring and had a lot of questions. And initially they were kind of like a little bit quieter and were, you know, but we're definitely still participating. And then as the following, you know, as spring semester happened, they became really active and just had a lot of ideas about our action projects and became really involved, which was really exciting to see.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily surprised at the students who showed up to meetings, but the students that have been in attendance, are students who I've interacted with in the past, but super close personal level, and there are students who have typically been quiet, so they always show up things, but I think one of the rewarding parts of initiative this year at the start was to see some of these students who typically kind of hesitate to use their voice really step up and super passionate, like Hector said, about the issues that we're trying to tackle as a club. And yeah, definitely it's just super and empowering to see that these students aren't feeling as afraid or timid to use their voice.
I'd say to add on to that, what he just said there, something that I'm not surprised because it's part of the design of the program is to get some voices that maybe, or some students that we don't necessarily find in traditional leadership roles into these roles as leaders. And it is really nice to see these students find a way to kind of step out of their shell and step into their own unique identity as a leader. And we have a lot of students that, again, you wouldn't necessarily see in traditional leadership roles stepping up and proving themselves to be high quality leaders when given the opportunity.
I have one more question. Do you, in general, feel like the adults around you understand what you're going through at this phase in your life?
That's a great question.
That's not for you, John.
I know, I get it. I'm so curious.
Yeah. I would say yes and no. Second semester senior year, I don't know why it's hard. It's not just saying it's hard to continue to show up, but I feel that my teachers and the staff at Basalt High School, along with my family and parents, are very supportive and very motivational and very on board with everything that I've chosen to do, especially with this equity council. And so, yeah, I would say for the most part, I think so.
As you know, Ruthie said, so, I think personally, it's my senior year and scholarship and application for college, all those things. But I think I had a great support from the school administration, my teachers, and motivating me to do these things, and sometimes I just like, oh my God, but in my mind, it's like, they know that I'm doing this, they know that I'm capable to do these things. That's why they are choosing me to do this thing.
I think that yes, in general, most of the adults, I think especially in a school setting, know what it's like to be a senior and to have a lot going on. And then, it's also hard. Everyone's got different things going on in their life, but I think more importantly, all the adults are really willing to sort of meet you halfway or adjust to what you need if you're willing to kind of take that first step and let them know what you need help with or what they could be doing a little differently.
Yeah, I agree. Second everything that everybody said so far. And I think that it's definitely what Ruthie said. It's like a yes and no situation. And I think that it's the curiosity and like genuine interest from Joel and I mean just the adults that I've interacted with specifically with like, Miss Carb and Joel and other adults in the building. It's the curiosity and the want and to even try and understand what we're going through is the part that really matters. And I think that that's the part that really, I think, like helps students feel the need and the want to open up, as opposed to the sort of like, no, we understand, we get it. It's like, no, I think when you ask questions and you become, kind of what Joel was saying, staying curious is the most important part. And I think that's really impactful for all of us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being, oh, was it one more? Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited for you guys. I just want to remind you that the best part of your lives are still in front of you. And it's, getting this amazing base is going to be a good start for you, but this is just the start. Like the rest of your life is coming and it's going to be amazing. But thank you.
Thanks. Director After?
Those are great questions. And so first of all, thank you for taking time. Thanks for being here. And in lieu of the scholarship night from Glenwood, we'll get you out of here so you can get back to that. But thanks for all the work and the leadership that you all, staff and students, have put into this over many years. I don't have many questions. The presentations were really thorough. I did just wonder, since you have the mic, if there's anything that we haven't asked yet or that you didn't cover in the presentation that you're really proud of that you would like to share, or a challenge that was really hard for you, but you want to let us know about and you haven't yet. I'd just say we briefly mentioned that we had the sports and clubs fair this year, but I would just say that that was really, really successful. A lot of clubs would have like double the participants the next week. A lot of students felt like they had no idea these clubs even existed, but now they were able to get involved, you know? So I think that was really cool. And the club is hoping to do one in the fall next year to get even more participation.
I would say what I'm most proud of that we achieved this year was our student-led walkout. It brought me to tears like in the present when we were doing it. And it was just so empowering to see how many students truly like wanted to be there. I'm sure as you would guess, there were a couple students who were like, oh, I can just leave school. But you know, for the most part, I would say 99% of the students there were so excited to be there and were so passionate about what we were doing as a club and as a student body. And just to see everyone come together in the way that we did on that day, really just, it gave me a lot of faith for us as a young generation. And oftentimes I view our generation as the last line of defense for various issues across the board, but that it meant a lot to me. And I think, I don't know if Hector agrees, but it was really meaningful to me.
And you know that we can get in trouble. That was a good trouble.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Director Ramirez?
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I'm going to request an extra minute now because I have some questions and all of this is so exciting. Felicidades. Congratulations. This is amazing, guys. Like, this is what we should be doing at all of our board meetings. Like, we should be having you guys come and tell us all of the things. And I feel very excited. Me siento muy orgullosa en este momento. So thank you. I do have just some questions for the adults really quick, because I think this is important. In regards to the survey we presented, which, but I did see that we had some of the student voice survey questions and some data. So thank you for sharing that. That was just at Roaring Fork High School. Or was that a school-wide?
Does at all three high schools.
Okay. And I just wanted to clarify too. So, did we get a breakdown in demographics for that survey?
We don't have that yet because the window for the survey just closed.
Oh, got it.
So we don't have a breakdown of that yet, but that's also why I really think it's important, if we want to continue to use data to track the success of this initiative, that we integrate it in some platforms that I trust more in terms of disaggregation. I don't want to be there like making little check boxes. You see what I mean?
Awesome. Well, great work on creating the survey in the first place. Are there student equity councils at every high school? Is that
There are right now at the three big high schools, and there's not one at Bridges yet, which is also another next step.
okay? And just encourage the team. I think this is great work. First of all, kudos to the deans of culture for making sure that this happened and all of this work happened. And I think more than anything, because we see the success, even in this meeting, it would be great for us to bring this forward as maybe even right now that we're talking about committees of the board. I mean, this is one of those things that I just don't see why we shouldn't have these councils at all of our high schools and make a concerted effort to say this is a district initiative that the board is behind. So just want to leave it there. Happy to, you know, if anybody from any one of these high schools wants to bring this forth as a conversation for district equity steering committee or equity council, I think it would be a great topic and something that I think this board has an appetite for. And I also just wanted to give you guys kudos for some of the, you guys mentioned you guys did a crew on hate speech. Thank you. I think that is so important. I think, you know, one of the things I really appreciate from this team is that you guys not only took student leaders to have experiences outside of classroom walls, the district, but that you guys gave them the opportunity to come back and make a difference in their schools. And I did get to meet Osvaldo at LAD, so I'm really sad he wasn't here. I had the pleasure of being with some of the team from BHS, and you know, that motivation, that sort of inspiration you guys bring to us as a board and doing this job is so important. And thank you guys for like taking initiative, for giving your time, for volunteering, for saying yes to your deans of culture and your teachers and your admin, because it does make a difference for us as a board to hear this feedback and say what's working, what isn't working, how can we do better. I also just had a question for our team. I did see that the Healthy Kids Colorado survey and the Panorama Student Survey, that there was a sort of a decline in the grades 3 to 5. Is there something that you think that the high school teams were doing that could be implemented into the lower grades for student belonging?
I think that to nudge those numbers with younger kids, that there needs to be different strategies than necessarily student leadership. But I think that, you know, that listening to students and listening to kids and finding out what they need is always the best strategy. So there's some similarities and some differences. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to ask you guys, since you guys went to our schools, is there something that the district could have done when you guys were in elementary and middle school to help you guys like be ready for starting clubs freshman year and being involved freshman year?
There was one thing that I thought was like, that's something that I think was done that could be done more of. I know that I mentioned briefly that Student Equity Council did the promoting AP class enrollment through info sessions. And I think taking that sort of format and then putting it into like among more things. So maybe like a sports and clubs fair exclusively for incoming freshmen. And if it does at some point kind of move into the middle school, doing that for fourth graders even, but just like making sure that they're young people, and even for those people who you're talking about, the demographic that you were just talking about, making sure that there's like, you know, outreach and know that there's something that when they show up to, you know, a bigger building and a whole new staff and a whole new group of faculty, to know that there's options for them to get involved and they already know it right off the bat instead of trying to figure it out as they're kind of going through. But yeah, that's like one thing that I think could be amplified as opposed to something that could be changed. But yeah.
I think just in general, coming into high school as a freshman it's intimidating. I don't think that'll ever change. Hector, so as freshman, student council was still just that. It was student council, it was a club. It was entirely, for the most part, student run. And then sophomore, it transitioned to student leadership, which is now a class that we take for a letter grade. And I think we've done a good job of utilizing that for freshmen. I think presentation across all grade levels in the class. And it's given relationships with students that I never would have really expected. But yeah, I think using that to its fullest potential for freshmen feeling included and welcome to the high school episode is successful. And I don't know if maybe that could be implemented at other schools, but I think it's been really successful for us.
Thanks. Okay, so I just wanted to echo all of the enthusiasm and appreciation for the effort and the time that came in to getting you all ready for this. I do have to apologize for Glenwood Springs High School. I know we moved the date of this meeting and that didn't work out for you guys. And I'm just so sorry that that excluded those students from being here tonight. So I just wanted to add that on the record that that was a board decision that we made for a lot of different scheduling reasons, and we do miss them. And I hope you express our appreciation and apologies for that. I also want to name that Catherine Kuhlenberg, who is not able to join us just yet, who will hopefully be coming soon, is going to be just so sad that she missed this, because this is really her passion, is involving student leadership in the board. And we'll be working on investigating whether actual student participation on the school board, what that could look like in our district in the future, and would just like to welcome all of your thoughts, especially having just gotten to the end of this work and being seniors. If you have that kind of wrap up, debrief, feedback of this process and leadership, looking at what we do here and thinking, okay, What would it be if it was one step more, if we were joining in this work here in the governance work and the policy work? So just something to kind of plug a little bit with all of your free time that you just told us about. And then I just really appreciate that you all are opening your discussions around what needs to be done based on data. That's incredible. Like, what a leap. You guys are ahead of so many grown-up organizations. Adult governance issues abound because we make decisions based on a moment or a person or a story and not on the data. Was that a steep learning curve as you all, and I know you all did some of this as well, so I don't want to limit it, but what was that like to try to shift your thinking and base it on what you were seeing in the numbers? Or were you already like that? Is your brain already worked that way?
I mean, I think it happened pretty naturally because we spent a lot of time sort of going through the data as a club and a lot of rounds of, people picking up highlights or things they really noticed. So I think it was kind of a combination of both the data and both what people were noticing themselves, because I remember when we were deciding what our action projects were going to be, we had all the data up there, and then people were adding to that their own ideas and their own things they were noticing around school and feeling. So I think we got sort of lucky that the data really aligned with how people in the club were feeling at that moment. So it felt pretty natural.
Totally. And I also, like, just to even add on to that, I think it was really cool just because, like, we're both students and everybody in the Student Equity Council is obviously students. I think it was like, and I remember a member of our team, and obviously I helped write some of the survey, but like, what somebody said to me recently was that we are kind of a voice for the rest of the student body, which I thought was really, like, real, because, though we can kind of be like, it kind of needs to get smaller and smaller. And so it's like two of us sort of representing, Student Equity Council here in this meeting, but also, us and Student Equity Council representing the rest of the school. And so I think that was kind of like exactly what Caroline was saying. We're trying to align our goals and realizing that there's a lot of overlap in what we in our meetings are seeing, like, oh, somebody has an idea and we're seeing that actually reflected in the data, also bringing up new issues that maybe we hadn't even thought of before. Because I know we were making lists of action projects, and we realized that there was some data that was saying, oh, we haven't looked into this issue because nobody in this, 25 group studies with, about 500 students at Roaring Fork High School, were realizing. So there's no way that 25 people could have known what everybody was thinking. So I thought that was sort of the main thing, was kind of realizing that there are more action projects and things and initiatives that we could do as a club and as a council to help benefit the rest of the school. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I also just appreciate the questions that we're going to be incorporating in our feedback. We don't know what we don't know. And so thank you for helping us think about those questions that we need to be asking. And I'd open it up now to 5 minutes of board discussion. Director Ramirez, if you had more.
Yeah, so I did want to, and thank you for mentioning the student voice survey and sort of how you guys have grown that. I did want to ask, is this student voice survey data going to be presented to the board eventually, or?
The vision for this is to incorporate it into Panorama so that we can, like, effectively and confidently, knowing that we have a great response rate, that we have a great platform that we trust, and that we have, like, disaggregation by experts. So, it's something that we can surely discuss, but at this point, my vision for it is to use this as kind of like the catalyst to get these questions into a more standardized format.
And, and I would only add that I think what's really cool about the current format is, and am I right, Sam, y'all are like using Google Forms. So our students can very quickly and responsively design questions and get it out to their colleagues and their peers. But if you've ever used Google Forms, it can be really hard to disaggregate, and it takes a long time to do analysis. And so I think there's a little bit of a cost benefit analysis where this is their survey, and we want to keep it as close to students as possible. And as we grab some of their really great questions and put them into Panorama and roll it up to the district level, it becomes something that we can manipulate better because it's a more robust data analysis tool, but then it loses the closeness to what is a burning issue at Basalt High School, or what is coming up that really feels important for the students at Fork or Glenwood to ask. And so I do think I mean, we could certainly talk more about it, but I would name that like the data that in particular at the district level, we're looking at are those things in the strategic plan, the Healthy Kids Colorado, the Panorama Student Survey, those metrics on specifically on like, do you feel like you belong at school, which is asked a couple different ways in both of those surveys. And the question around, are you participating in clubs and sports activities? So there's some tension there. I think our bias is we want to keep that as close to the students as possible and let it be theirs. And you heard from Caroline and Sam, the way that they were disaggregating and looking at their own school's data. We can absolutely kind of share with the board what they have. And, I think the altitude that we tend to look at is really that what's in our strategic plan. So maybe both and.
I would absolutely love, so the last 2 surveys were done for all schools so would love to see the last 2 surveys, just as it is, as you guys have, I'm not asking for like a complete like disaggregated thing, but I would love to see just what you guys gathered. It was a concerted effort from this team, and I think it's worthy for the board to see your guys' work and see what you guys were able to accomplish. And then I did have a question about the student leadership at BHS. Is that something that we have across the district, or is that just BHS? Do we know?
Hi. Choose to talk about this because I'm one of the teachers of the student leadership class. There's 2 of us. And actually tomorrow there's going to be an opportunity where Hector and our other head student in our student leadership class are going to be visiting Roaring Fork High School and having a little bit of a conversation with the principal and some of the student leaders to talk about the idea of maybe converting their student council club into a student leadership class. So it's really serendipitous that you would ask that question now, because tomorrow Hector's been planning for this. We met today to sort of talk about some of the things to focus on and why we think this functions better as a class in general. And they'll sort of take it and do with that information what they want, but it's pretty cool that we were invited to do that. So,
well, kudos to you guys, this team. I, as a board member who has 2 years left on the board, would like to just push all of you guys in this room, parents, students, everybody, our team, Student Equity Council at all of our schools, I think is necessary. I think if that's a class, even better. Like, I think if we can have student leadership group or a class where the kids get a grade and they feel empowered at the end of the semester, and now they're going to go create more clubs and get kids motivated to do more sports, I think that's all worthy of the time and the energy. And I, as a board member, would completely support that. And I hope that you guys all know how amazing it is that you guys are not just succeeding in school, but succeeding as leaders in your communities and in your schools. It's really amazing. So, felicidades de nuevo. Thanks.
Okay, one last thing to close us out. You mentioned, Caroline, not to put you on the spot, you all worked on hard conversations and teaching people how to have them. And I'm sure you all did very similar work when figuring out how to engage. And I'm wondering if each of you could just share one top level thing that you took away from that training that you think we all as a society would benefit from hearing. How do you have hard conversations?
That calling someone out for saying something that might be harmful doesn't have to be personal to them, and it can actually be really helpful because it might not be something they're aware of. So it's always better just to say it instead of letting it continue on, because you're honestly doing both of you a favor.
At like the triple 100 times that. And also I think that that emphasis is on staying curious and keeping an open forum for there to be questions and curiosity as opposed to attacks. I think that's like one of the main things. And I know for me, especially when, maybe for me, I might not know a term that somebody's talking about, or maybe I feel a little bit nervous to bring something up because I'm afraid that I'm going to say the wrong thing. I think that staying curious and knowing that there's a brave space as opposed to a safe space is super important.
This was exclusively a Roaring Fork training, but it's important for sure. And I would say, in my experience, the most important and meaningful thing that you can do is to truly just actively listen and hear what the other person is saying, and kind of just try to set aside all of your personal biases for a second, as hard as it may be, and just truly hearing out what the other person has to say. Even if you don't understand, you don't agree, or you can't find the way to get it at that point in time. Just listening is a lot of times the best thing you can do for someone.
Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing where you go next. Appreciate this. All right, we're going to keep moving on. We have quite a few more things on the agenda to get to tonight. Lots of work to do. And at this time, we're going to welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There are 8 speakers signed up tonight, and the board allots 45 minutes total for public comment to respect the time of all who are present. Speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. And reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. And I just wanted to mention from our regulation that does talk about defamatory language and threatening remarks are out of order. And as far as one note for the audience, let's hold the applause. Take that energy to our sports fields. We have so many kids doing amazing things, just like these all did. But as far as public comment, it's not an appropriate response in this forum. So I'm going to ask that you hold that applause, and we'll save it for energy on the field. So our first speaker of the night is Maureen Bierman.
Hi, thank you guys for time for us to share our thoughts with you. My name is Maureen Bierman. I'm a Glenwood Springs resident, and I have 2 kids who are currently in the RFSD, a 1st grader and a 5th grader at GSES. I wanted to talk to a couple of points related to student mental health and well-being and belonging. And I specifically wanted to actually first reference the presentation that we just saw, which was pretty incredible. The work that's being done by the students in the high schools and supported by faculty and staff and by you all is hugely important and ties into what I want to talk about next in a moment. But in particular, they're leaving a legacy, which is really cool. I'm grateful as a parent whose kids are going to be making it through the middle schools and in the high school within the next decade and a half. And it's amazing to see this groundwork being laid now. So thank you to faculty who are involved in that, and please pass on to the students that their presentation was amazing and the work they're doing is amazing and leaves a huge legacy. So related to that, this sense of belonging that's being created, which I really like that concept rather than something like equity, which is important, but I think the end goal really should be belonging, because that we know is one of the things that contributes best to student well-being and mental health over the long run. So we'll be talking about cell phone bans later tonight, and I think that that's a really great step towards helping students continue to have a cohesive community sense of belonging. We know that there's a lot of data out there about how cell phone usage and social media usage can be a divisive factor that damages students' mental health. And I encourage you all to be very thoughtful and hopefully pass some sort of policy around banning cell phones from school. I like this idea. I think it just is a great way to move forward with a data-driven policy that we know is going to benefit all of our students. Related to this also, I want to talk a little bit about my experience and my children's experience with the 3 R's health curriculum. Both of my students have had lessons in this curriculum this year. And prior to each of them having this, about a week before, we received a few different messages, text message, information sent home to us. So a couple different mediums in English and Spanish, letting us know that these lessons were going to happen. We were notified what was going to be lessons. We were notified who was going to be giving them and what to do if we wanted to opt out. It was very clear. So thank you for your leadership in ensuring that people in all the schools were following call to make sure that this happens in a responsible way. I was a little concerned. I was a little concerned, but in the end, it worked out great. I think it's really important, especially the gender and sexuality aspects of these for the older students in terms of fostering senses of belonging for everybody. So I'm really happy with this, and I just wanted to express that today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Up next, we have our next speaker is Jamie Gosha.
My name is Jamie Gosha. I'm the parent of 2 children who attended school in this district and am a homeowner and educator formerly employed by this district. This is the 3rd time I've spoken in opposition to the sex education curriculum implemented in elementary schools this semester, along with several other concerned parents and stakeholders. Many others have reached out to me thanking me for standing up for the children who are exposed to this inappropriate and premature sexualization, as they feel they cannot for fear of the discrimination their children would face in our current school environments. This, coupled with the manner in which school administration and board members have responded to parent and community concerns, explains the erosion of public trust and declining student enrollment this district is facing. I've spent my professional career studying child development and neuroscience and educating our youngest and most vulnerable students from birth to age 8, who fall on varying points of the developmental continuum from severely delayed to gifted. And for the past 10 years, I've also had the privilege of educating early childhood teachers at our local college. In studying the research and data that we have from a generation of neuroscience and child development, we know the damage that comes from introducing children to concepts and material that they are not developmentally able to process or understand. This is why all good early childhood programs implement what's called developmentally appropriate practices. In order for children to develop optimally in all areas, the curriculum must be appropriate for a child's age and stage in each developmental domain. When introducing new materials and concepts, we must make certain that they are developmentally appropriate and that they benefit the child's growth in one or more of the developmental domains. After careful review of the slides and lesson plans of the 3 R's curriculum, I cannot see how any young child will benefit from this too much too soon introduction of graphic sexual content and gender theory. The onus is on you, the board, to provide the data that proves that this specific curriculum provides cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and/or linguistic benefit to our youngest students. I'm sure you have metrics for collecting and disseminating that to your constituents, as I am requesting now, and I look forward to reviewing the results. I want to end with a story that illustrates simply why this curriculum should not be taught in our elementary schools. When Corrie ten Boom was a young child, she was riding a train with her father when she had asked him a question about sex. Her father didn't answer, but instead pulled his heavy suitcase from the rack over their heads and set it on the floor. He then asked Corrie to carry it off the train for him. She tried to lift it unsuccessfully and said, "It's too heavy." Her father replied yes, and it would be a pretty poor father who would ask his little girl to carry such a load. It's the same with knowledge. Some knowledge is too heavy for children. When you are older and stronger, you can bear it. For now, you must trust me to carry it for you. Please stop asking our children to carry a load they cannot yet bear. Protect their innocence and remove this developmentally inappropriate curriculum from our elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Susan Tribble.
Right here. So I have to say, this is the first time you guys look like you're engaged with us. You should have the 1% of the 30% come up more often. They were pretty good, huh? I was impressed with that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget. It's kind of hard to ignore the fact that the district is considering yet again another mill levy override, which you did in 2021, which again is only 5 years ago. But when you had a little bit of money left over in the budget, you decided to take 12% of that and put it towards housing. You can't save any money. I mean, like, you should have taken that and put it away for a rainy day or for some other use. But you couldn't do that. It was like burning a hole in your pocket. The current MLO you are suggesting is also supposed to go to help fund teacher salaries. Our students are at a desperately low statewide academic score. The budget doesn't include the increase in property taxes you will receive and that we have experienced this year. So those funds aren't in that budget that I could tell. It doesn't include the 7A funds you'll be receiving either. You do not need a MLO, you need a new superintendent. If other companies were run the way the schools district is run, they would be filing bankruptcy, restructuring, and firing key personnel. The district has failed its teachers, students, and parents. There is no coming back from this. The board needs to act swiftly if it wants to regain any form of respect from the community. Firing the superintendent is the only outcome that appears to be part of the solution. Another solution is to turn course from the curriculum you are determined to use that isn't curriculum for learning the much needed skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic, civics, government, and home economics. The reason students need to attend 6 years of college, 2 of those being for basic general ed classes, is because the schools have failed our children. Take a hard look at yourselves and turn this mess around. You got us here, you can get us out. And I'd like to just say, it might not be all of the board because some of you are new, but there were 2 that were here for a very long time, and they have implemented a lot of things that now you guys have to make a decision on what you want to do with it. And the community will support you, but it ultimately falls on you guys. It doesn't fall on anyone else. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Michaela Edimer. Is she? Thank you. Our next speaker is John Eaton. Also, please move all recording devices into the audience seating area. That's part of our regulation and policy. Thank you.
First off, I'd like to congratulate Carl Freerich on his amazing coaching career at Basalt High School football. Back 25 years ago, when Basalt was the soccer powerhouse on the Western Slope, Carl asked me how we did it. And I told him it was through a strong youth program, which had strong parental support, good coaching, and good athletes. He listened, and it took some time, but they did really well. The point is, he listened to people who did really well and were very successful. So what is your objectives, academically speaking? Academically, it should be 100% grade level graduation. Right now, you're at 25%, and this is a horrible failure. That's your grade, 25%. Any way you describe it, it's a very bad grade. When I was in school, if you got a grade that low, they would call your parents in and you would have a conference. Can we call your parents in, school board? What would your parents say at this dismal failure? The interesting thing is that you're letting 92% of the students walk in graduation as if they made grade level. That is 67% who didn't earn it, but got it anyway. You guys act like used car salesmen. This car has a great stereo, great paint job, and great seats, but it only goes at 25 miles an hour, and we're not buying it. You have to go back to the drawing board, back to the basics, to what worked before. I heard some of the parents last few weeks say that when they were here in school 10, 15 years ago, they were winning academic awards. I said it before and I'll say it again. Call the old school board members who are the most successful and ask for their help. It is obvious that the 3R curriculum isn't working. Get rid of it and get rid of anyone who supports it. This is your legacy. You guys are at 25%. By the way, we looked up on the internet the people who designed the 3R program, and it's a group of anti-American people who hate the USA. And they are very successful at destroying our country through academics. You're asking for more money to keep this dismal failure afloat. And this is a sinking ship. Your superintendent recently said the missing $7 million was a clerical error. That's possibly the most irresponsible answer I've ever heard. With that comment, we call for an outside audit. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike Gosha.
My name is Mike Gosha, and I'm the parent of 2 children who attended schools in this district, and I own a home in Carbondale. I'm here tonight to formally voice my opposition to the proposed mill levy override. In a recent article in the Post-Independent, Anna Cole stated, "Our entire strategic plan is focused on ensuring stronger academic outcomes for all kids. And yet, according to the superintendent's mid-year report, Only 35% of our kids are proficient in reading and 15 are proficient in math. And if that's not bad enough, they listed the targets for the end of the 5-year strategic plan in 2029 are 56% proficiency in reading and 45% proficiency in math. I know it's been a while since I was in school, but I'm pretty sure those are still failing scores. The Roaring Fork School District is in the business of education. You are supposed to be experts in providing our kids with the academic and critical thinking skills they need to become successful adults. The kids in school today are the ones who will one day live, work, and lead in our communities. I can't be the only one who is concerned about the prospect given the current state of our current district. Our kids in our communities deserve better. Hardworking and overtaxed homeowners have proven over and over again we believe in our kids and their potential. What we are tired of is promises from this district that never materialize. Public schools belong to the public. We invest our hard-earned tax dollars year after year in our schools because we want bright futures for our kids and our communities. Your job as elected board is to make sure our investment is managed appropriately and we get the results we are paying for. Following scores and metrics and all across all initiatives, including school culture, academic proficiency and performance, family partnerships, financial excellence, rigorous curriculum, and staff job satisfaction does not reflect the need for further investment in the district's long list of failures. And the worst part of that, on its current trajectory, it's guaranteed to fail for at least 5 more years. We are not going to continue to fund failure. This board needs to look at the current state of this district objectively, not emotionally. And you make some big decisions to change course and get back on track for our students. It may be too late to change course at this point. It may require a complete demolition of the current system and a thoughtful rebuild. You were elected to hold our schools to account and ensure our students receive a high-quality education for funding the taxpayers entrust the district with. The school district and the superintendents are failing our kids, and we are not going to continue to bail out a sinking ship. We will not support a mill levy override to continue to fund failure. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to note for the record that Director Kuhlenberg has joined us, and we have 5 directors sitting now. Our next speaker is Tanner Giametti.
At the last board meeting on March 18th, I provided you all with my formal parental rights dispute foundation and cited the violations I've compiled the school district RE1 pertaining to the 3R sexuality curriculum's rollout and the flawed parental notice process. These violations include, but are not limited to, the federal mandate ending radical indoctrination through K-12 schooling enacted January 25, constitutional mandates and precedent set forth for parental rights with Mohammed versus Taylor, June 25, and Mirabelli versus Bonta, March 26. Colorado State Law, CRS 13-22-107, and the in-district policy IHAM-R. My foundation went on to advocate for the district to replace this radical curriculum with a nationally accredited evidence-based curriculum absent ideological indoctrination. I provided 2 superior K-12 curriculums, Health Smart and Positive Action. I advocated for the district to reform the parental notification process from the current passive opt-out to a mandatory opt-in policy to ensure parents are truly consenting for their children's participation. I called for full material access of the health curriculum at least 4 weeks prior to the disclosed lesson plan date. Slideshows and visual materials included, with a reminder to be sent out 10 days prior to the lesson. In closing, I explained I was not bringing this information forward out of a desire for conflict, but out of a deep-seated commitment to protecting our youth, preserving our liberty, and conserving our community's values. I requested a private session with the board to find a resolution to these violations and have been given an answer. No. The superintendent has denied these violations allegedly per the district's legal counsel. and has expressed the board has no desire to meet with me to discuss this further. Is this true? Is this truly how far we've fallen? How can you all be so blindly attached to this radical doctrine that each of you can simply dismiss these parental right violations and administrative flaws? I implore you to reconsider. Everything I've brought to your attention is thoroughly backed with evidence and documentation. I've submitted my entire dispute foundation for the public as written comment as well. As I've exhausted all administrative remedies available to me, there's effectively nothing I can do to help the district. Please reconsider, pull politics out of education, and stand for our children and for parental rights.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jody Barr.
Hi, I'm Jody Barr. I am a longtime resident. I'm a former school board candidate, and I'm an advocate for children. For 3 years, the school board used the words health curriculum when referring to the 3 R's program. This wording has created confusion and prevented many parents from fully understanding what was actually being adopted and what is currently being taught. On February 6, 2023, the school board announced in its newsletter that it was planning on adopting a new health curriculum for the 2023-2024 school year. A newsletter released 2 days prior to the adoption of the 3 R's curriculum stated there would be action on the proposed health curriculum at the May 24th, 2023 school board meeting. The agenda itself read, School Health Curriculum Adoption with Chief Cole. Parents who actually found the 3 R's link in their emails or newsletters buried in their students' paperwork this year repeatedly saw the words health curriculum. That phrasing was so often used that the Post Independent titled its February 27, 2026 article, Roaring Fork School District Parents Express Concerns About Health Curriculum. The director of the 3 R's curriculum is adamant that this is not a health curriculum. It is a comprehensive sexuality education curriculum. She has repeatedly stressed that it should not be mislabeled as a health curriculum. There is a clear difference between the two. Health curriculum teaches personal hygiene, such as washing hands, properly covering sneezes. A comprehensive sex ed curriculum, specifically the 3 R's, teaches kindergartners. A person with a vulva has 3 holes between their legs and a very sensitive little area at the top called a clitoris. A health curriculum teaches about eating healthy and staying hydrated. A comprehensive sex ed curriculum teaches second graders that a vagina has great elasticity and can adjust to the size of a penis. A health curriculum teaches that physical activity and movement is important for your body. A comprehensive sex ed curriculum teaches 10 and 11-year-olds about vaginal, anal, and oral sex. A health curriculum teaches about healthy habits such as importance of sleep. A comprehensive sex ed curriculum teaches not all boys have a penis and not all girls have a vulva. Per the Colorado state mandate, I guess, if you teach the comprehensive sex ed curriculum, including to kindergartners. The 3 R's is not a health curriculum, and referring to it as such only distorts the truth. If your newsletters and meeting agendas had clearly stated what the 3 R's actually are, many more parents likely would have asked questions and considered opting their children out. Parents deserve clear and honest communication. That is what their children is being taught at school, so they can make informed decisions about whether or not they want the school involved in teaching comprehensive sex ed to their children. This is very uncomfortable to read, and I would hope that you would all take this to heart. I really ask for transparency. It's part of the reason I ran for school board. So I really hope you consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Just a reminder, in addition to the public comments, we did receive 47 written comments. All of those are available in the public agenda, which is linked on our website. So we had a very engaged community this week, which we really appreciate. The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes from our previous board meeting, policies GCHC, GDBC, GDO, and GDQB, and repeal of policies GDBB, GDN, and GDPC. Also included is approval of the 1.3 million CMS HVAC upgrade capital contract approval per the district's procurement policy. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent agenda for a separate discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull policy GDO.
Policy GDO. Then do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second? I second. Please call the vote.
Aye.
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 And now we'll have a discussion on policy GDO. Director Ramirez?
Thanks. So I did, in reviewing all of the policies, one flag that I had for policy GDO is that it does mention that the evaluation system is going to be reviewed every 5 years. And I felt like that should come at a faster rate if it's going to be a high quality evaluation system, especially with any changes in systems or district strategic plans, decisions that we want to shift. And so I felt like 5 years was too long for us to review. And I just wanted to make a suggestion that we shifted that to either 2 to 3 years, but wanted to hear from the team if there was a reason for 5.
It's their staff insight.
Sorry, I'll jump in and then Chief Brockman, if you've got anything to add. I think it would probably be capacity. We're, needing frankly to build a tighter system on this right now. And this is part of some of the work we have that is aligned in the strategic plan, is to have a more comprehensive system for support staff. And so I think it's really around capacity of, while we're actually implementing and doing this, to step back and rework and review, I think was really a capacity component that 2 and 3 years moves really fast. So I think it was just kind of a feeling around that, especially knowing that we still have a lot of work to do to get a comprehensive system in place. Chief Brockman, what else? Anything else to add?
Thanks for this comment, and I'm certainly open to feedback about adjusting our current systems. We have been, Chief Bumpock and I have been working really hard with classified leaders to clean up the process of evaluating each of our classified staff members on a regular cadence. The 5 years in policy does give us an opportunity to have some fine tuning and tweaking of tools that we use and processes in between. It's not like we do nothing and then 5 years later there's a comprehensive review. I think there is, just like in school, how there's formative assessment and then the summative assessment, like these little checks and adjusts are happening throughout, but certainly open to feedback and a push about how we execute that.
Yeah, thanks, team. I mean, I hear your capacity concern. I think that since you guys are working on this and that the hope is that we'll have something better, that we're working towards something better, that sort of, I didn't, at least for me, it didn't read like it was like a comprehensive review where we're going to change it, more so just review it and make sure that we're still happy with it. And that, if anything needs to, I don't believe that this is approved by the board, is it?